So you're working as a sleep coach. For those who don't know what's that.
Yes, I basically work inside elite sports, which is male and females, all different types of sports across the world. And it's all about getting a human being to get through and cope with getting from A to B. And as things have changed over the decades, and certainly in the world we live in now, recovery can't be more important. And we know very little about sleep and recovery, so it's about educating and awareness and creating sort of ways that they can get through their day. And we do that in elite sports, and I've been doing that for 22 years now.
And as you mentioned on your speech, you're working with the world's biggest sports stars, and you're teaching them to sorry, their sleep habits to achieve the peak performance. Do you think all successful CEOs are able to do that?
It's about human beings. I mean, it just happens to be their occupation happens to be sport, but they have families and they have friends and colleagues. It's all about this human process of being able to recover mentally and physically in any 24-hour period. So it applies to CEOs, it applies to anybody, students, nurses, whatever occupation you've got. Um, that applies exactly the same thing. So I think everybody can learn from redefining their approach because of that lack of education.
And do you believe some people are able to function on very little sleep better than others?
There's certainly lots of evidence around that this sort of myth of 8 hours, just sleeping at night in one block for 8 hours, which is quite difficult to do. It's not something we naturally do. We actually are more attuned to sleep in shorter periods more often. But there are ways by using certain techniques you can find out actually how much you can operate on and feel very good at. So there are limits. You do have to sleep, but you can do it in what would appear to some to be quite crazy sleep-wake cycles. And in the modern world, that's very, very important because we're just 24/7 and there's more coming.
And recently, we have more and more sleeping trackers and apps um, to kind of check like our sleeping habits. What do you think about them? Do they really help?
I think the thing that we all need to understand is technology is brilliant and it helps us do more things, it helps us analyze things, which is great, and it helps us develop different tools that can help us as human beings. The one area here is because it's the third pillar of health and well-being along with nutrition and exercise is that we've only just started to re-educate the process. Like here at this conference, we're talking very basic, simple things about circadian rhythms, chronotypes, cycles and hours and things. And it's almost like going back to school, but we don't educate them. So when you look at this process, you can start to think, have I got any experience or knowledge about how other people, how much REM sleep they've got, how much deep sleep they've got, how much sleep they actually got at all? And we've not been tracking this. So we don't know, say, how much deep sleep Usain Bolt got or anybody else. So I think there's a danger that you start looking at the information, but what is it telling you? What are you going to do about it? Because sleep will never become a performance criteria. So I think use it with care. The information they're providing is more of a guide rather than specific. We will get there, and the more you keep looking at it and developing programs, but don't forget you need to get some of the basic principles in place because it is a natural recovery process. And sometimes the tech can start you worrying about things you don't know too much about, and that can be counterproductive.
And personally, I'm not the best morning person ever. So, what kind of advice do you have for serial snoozers and how we can maximize our mornings to break up this like habit of staying in bed for too long?
Yeah, I think there's just tap in your browser circadian rhythms and just have a look at images and things like that and get this a bit of a better awareness about the sun going around our planet and the relationship the human has with it because it's critical. We keep moving further and further away from that, so that's it. Your chronotype, whether you're an AMer or a PMer, it can be quite critical about how you plan your day and how others impact on it. I think the most important one would be to identify your most consistent wake time, chop your day up into 90-minute cycles, and look at from the point of wake in the morning, forget about what happened last night, it's gone, and get on with your day, get light, fuel up, hydrate, bowel and bladder, some mental challenges, and get into the world. Every 90 minutes, just take a little break, a little distracted break. that helps this whole process. And think about little CRPs, naps, midday or early evening. And once you start that process, it can be quite a paradigm shift into how you approach every day and maximize yourself to more consistent, sustainable levels of recovery. So the top tip, put circadian rhythms in your browser, identify your chronotype, AM and PM. We all know what we are. We don't have to do that science. And just look at breaking your day up into cycles, and suddenly you'll start to find a way around it.
Thank you. I will try that one.
No.
And the last question, is there anything unknown for you in the sleeping habits? Is there something that you still want to examine or like discover?
I think when you know, engaging with the world of sleep and experts all around. There's research going on all the time. I think there's always this little caveat at the bottom, and I've heard it when you look at lots of other things like TED Talks and stuff with the professors, and is that we're still learning about it. There's so many variables that we're still learning about the impact long term and short term. Just how much we can get control over it. Most of my clients would like me to come up with a sleep recovery routine that lasts 3 minutes, not 8 or 9 hours. Do it faster, release life up. But I think when some of the fascinating things is you start to think about, why do we sleep horizontally? And when you look at how we all do sleep, anywhere, anytime, and anything, in chairs, on sofas, in different hotel rooms, when we go camping, up the side of a mountain, on a plane, and you just think, well, why am I trying to sleep horizontally for long periods of time at night when actually I could probably do this differently? So there are neuroscientists and people sort of asking these questions of, why did we start sleeping flat on a mattress with pillows and duvets, you know? Um, and so I think there's some really interesting things that we go, just question, see if you can find an answer. If you can't find that answer, well, maybe there's a better way of doing it.
Thank you so much.
It's a
Thank
pleasure.
you.